We started watching the videos, and now I moved from the Grant. I started listening to 10X Rules. She forced me to do it. And as I was listening to him, I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy knows what he's talking about. And I came to the conclusion the thing I didn't like about that guy was that he was a remarkable promoter. And I wasn't. I'll be honest with you, Natalie is the reason that we met Grant and Elena. When I sold the business, I had spent 10 years doing research looking at hundreds and hundreds of industries so that we could create a model to predict which would be the hottest industries to go into. Which industries could we roll up, create value, create a management company, help those business owners grow, scale, and create massive value, bigger, better, faster. And then I sold my business. And I sold it for one of the highest prices ever paid for a private company. And the reason for that is I didn't sell it the way you would sell a traditional business. I sold it the way I wanted to sell the business based on the value I could create for the person who acquired me. I didn't go on the road and sell it for, hey, I'm 35 million in revenue, making 2.5 million, and I want 200 million for my company. I would have been laughed at. What I did is the same science that we do for every business owner every day here at Cardone Ventures. I reverse engineered 8 specific businesses that I thought if they bought me, we could grow their business significantly by contributing what we do. I reverse engineered their business, and my pitch was 20 seconds. I'm Brandon Dawson. I have a $35 million company that makes $2.3 million a year. If you acquired me, we'd add $2 billion worth of value to your business within 36 months, and I want 10%, $200 million. Now, usually you would get laughed out of that room. I've been laughed out of a lot of rooms. It took me 108 presentations to raise my first million when I was in my 20s. And most of the rooms I was laughed out of, they were ruthless. So I know what a good pitch sounds like, and I know what a bad one sounds like. Because I was horrible when I first started trying to raise money. And instead of saying to me, you're ridiculous, you're crazy, people would say to me, how could you add $2 billion to our company? I said, that's a great question. Let me show you. And then I had an audience. After I sold that business, we took that $1 billion company in 36 months to $4.5 billion by rolling out in 10 countries and operationalizing their North American operations. Added so much value so fast, I over-accelerated, and they said, hey, we'll let you out of your contract as long as you stay the CEO. And my job was to bridge all these countries and corporate in Denmark and all the chief executive officers around the world that ran those countries. And it was a great feat. But afterwards, I was a little bit like, I've done all this research, I've got all these industries we could go to, I don't know how to get in front of all these industries, I don't know if I want to do it, I finally am wealthy. It's one thing to pay yourself $3 or $4 million a year, it's another thing to put 100 million in the bank. And all of a sudden I felt like, do I really have the courage, do I really have the inspiration? And after a couple years of kind of doing the I sold my business thing, Natalie's like, dude, we got to get off our ass and do something. You're getting fat, you're getting lazy, we're miserable, by the way. And you've had this dream that you've been living for 20 years, and all of a sudden it feels like you're giving up on your dream. And if you're giving up on your dream, we need to have a conversation about what you and I are doing. So, having tough love with people who can be direct with you is important. And I was like, all right, let's go. Let's go build this thing. What's the fastest way we can build it? And she's like, you should look at some of these social media guys. Now, I'm a traditional business guy. I spend a lot of time in private equity boardrooms, doing healthcare events, in public company boardrooms. And so she starts showing me these social media influencers. I didn't know anything about it, to be honest with you. I think I had 12 people on Instagram, and it was my kids and my grandkids. And she starts flipping through it, and she's like, you should look at this guy. I'm like, nah, I don't want to walk on fire. Oh, nah, I don't want to go to garage sales. And she goes, how about this guy? And I see this guy running in front of his airplane with his hat on crooked going, hey, hey, hey. And I went, no. No. Zero chance. Zero chance. And she just kept prodding me and prodding me and prodding me. And so she was following Elena, and she's like, man, these two work together. What we did is we sat down. She took a chapter out of Elena's book about working together and collaborating and coming to prioritizing. And we sat down and we put our priorities together as a couple. And for me, one of my priorities was, look, I already over-exceeded my target. I wanted to be worth $50 million when I was in my late 20s, because that's what a lot of my mentors told me. At $50 million, you're independently wealthy. Then I had a couple mentors that said, hey, At 75 million, you have a little more room to do some fun stuff. At 100 million, you're pretty much done. So I had moved my target from 50 to 100, and I achieved that after I went from being worth zero in my 20s to $10 million. And I thought, man, I'm on a run. The problem is by my early 30s, my investors sold the company out from underneath me, and I was back down to being zero. What's worse, getting there and losing it, or never getting there? So for me, my next target, one of the things that was important to me, I wanted someone who could teach me how to be worth $350 million to $500 million. And so we set some goals. And the reason I bring this up to you is because when you leave here, I'd love for you to have your goals set. And I'd love for you to actually share your goals with the people who trust, fall, and work with you. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes is people don't set goals. And they're not committed to it. So here's our goals. We wanted to work with a couple because we wanted to work together as a couple, and we wanted the influence. I'm a past recipient of 2 ex-wives. I didn't want a third. And so I needed to change how I engaged and aligned with my spouse to make sure we were on the same page, because I was out of alignment. I got married very young with my first wife, great lady. But she wanted to be on a farm in Minnesota with cows. That's what her family did. I wanted to be the CEO of a public company. So as we grew with 2 beautiful girls, after 10 years, we grew apart. She went back to the farm, and I went to run the public company. And my second wife was phenomenal for the first 10 years. And we had a remarkable daughter, but what happened is the more I wanted to pursue building and building and building, the more she felt it took away from her. And so all of a sudden, the last 6 years, there was so much conflict that it was natural for us, it was easier to go apart because I wasn't going to change my goals, nor was she going to change her expectations. So I learned a long time ago by watching some examples that you can stay in relationships and fight, or you can figure it out, or you can move on. What I'm unwilling to do is spend my life fighting. It just doesn't work. And I'd rather my kids see that both their parents are pursuing their own independence than sitting in the house screaming and yelling and fighting at each other and destroying everybody's quality of life. So I moved on. But what I didn't want to do is get in another relationship and blow it. So for Natalie and I, she's half my age, she was like, look, I want to go build something. I've known her since she was a kid. She came back from London School of Economics, brilliant girl. And we sat down and said, what do we want to do together? Well, first thing, we want to build something together. Second thing is my next goal was I wanted to be worth 350 to 500 million. The third thing was we wanted to do something with somebody that was relevant to what we were doing. We wanted to add value. We didn't want to compete with something they had going on. The fourth thing is it had to be big enough. Like, I start businesses. I'm a business expert. I started my last business and grew it entirely organically from start, using the concepts, the programs that I created to teach business owners how to start, grow, scale, and create massive value without needing somebody else's money. And the reason for that is because I used somebody else's money the first time around, and they sold my business out from underneath me. And so I was pissed enough to create some way, and I was going to fail or succeed in this process. So I started my business with 90 days of money, and I leveraged that and continued to reinvest it all the way up to building a $38 million business. Never had a non-profitable quarter, never had a non-profitable month, and then I sold the business for 151 million recorded, but it was really 188. And the difference is how they structured the earnout, because they didn't want to admit that they paid 100 times for a business. They were a little nervous the public markets would make fun of them. Until the stock went up from $17 a share, where it had been sitting for 3 years, to 92. And then they were very proud of buying us. But the fifth criteria for us was, could we also enjoy the people we're working with? The one thing wealth has given me is the ability to say, I'm not really interested. It's a privilege to be able to do that, by the way, because I had to work with a lot of people I didn't actually like working with. And so we went to the 2019 Growth Con. We started watching the videos, and now I moved from the grant. I started listening to 10X Rule. She forced me to do it. And as I was listening to him, I'm like, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy knows what he's talking about. And I came to the conclusion, the thing I didn't like about that guy was that he was a remarkable promoter, and I wasn't. Because see, in 2010, if I was standing here next to Grant, Grant was trying to figure out how not to lose what he had. I was on the Inc. 500, Inc. 5000, Entrepreneur of the Year, fastest growing company 6 straight years in a row between 2008 and 2013. I was on the stage with thousands of people, with John Maxwell, Jim Collins, Story Musgrave, all my mentors that I was learning from and developing and working with. I had those stages. But something happened in 2015, 2016. I sold my business in 2016 for $150 million. And Grant was just starting to emerge with social media. And then all of a sudden, if you pinpoint where Grant is today and where I am, I plateaued and Grant shot to the moon. Nobody's raised $1 billion of crowdfunding from their own constituency using social media. But the point in all this is he created such a vacuum for people that wanted to succeed. And he created so much room in the organization that people could come in and win alongside Grant, which allowed him to get them to promote how they're doing. One of the most significant things that you got to learn to do if you want to get big is promote. And see, I didn't understand that.